Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Servants. Today we are going to look at a concept introduced into Fate that tags some servants but really one that doesn't get used very often. That is the concept of high servants. As of right now, this title is just that, a title. It has no bearing on gameplay, and it exists solely as an explanation on why servants may have unrelated noble phantasms and works well as a plot device for interesting content. However, now that I have said that, there's going to be a servant in this coming year that is going to introduce something that has to do with high servants. It'll probably be something like additional damage or a buff to them, making this video immediately outdated. But without further ado, let's get started. For context, I'll be going through all of these servants that we know about right now that are high servants, including those that are not in FGO yet, which servant or person they appear as, which servants they are comprised of, and what abilities this allows them to perform. Note that this means that this video will contain minor spoilers for both Fate Extra Foxtail, and Fate Grand Order. So if you care about any of that, I hate to see you go, but I understand. Now, let us begin. Let's start with an explanation as to what a high servant is. High servants are servants that are composed of multiple, usually 3 other spirits. These spirits can be either divine in nature or, in rare instances, other heroic spirits. There are also exceptions to this rule, but we'll get into that when we get there. The host body can be either artificial in nature, like with the Sakura 5, or the strongest of the personalities can be the one that emerges and is the primary one, such as Shitonai. This is not to say that this divine or heroic spirit is stronger than the others physically, but rather they are most in tune with the host body. An existing heroic spirit is able to add a divine spirit into themselves to become a high spirit, like we see with Summer BB. High servants are able to possess and use the skills and noble phantasms of the spirits they are composed of. Each high servant addresses the use of these differently, either working it into their kit like Passion Lip, or leaning harder onto their main bodies like Ashiya Doman. To date, we are aware of 9 high servants: Passion Lip, Meltralis, Kazudrop, Violet, King Protea, BB Summer, Shitonai, Summer Kiara, and Ashiya Doman. Before you comment that Muramasa is also one, this information is coming directly from the Type Moon wiki, which states that he is yet to officially be classified as a high servant. However, given that he does contain 2 spirits within him, those being Hodir and Susanoo, he may be classified as one at some point. Another interesting exception to this rule is Van Gogh. Chaldea's Van Gogh is actually composed of 3 essences: the water nymph Clytie, the alien plant god Volthune, and Vincent Van Gogh. However, she mostly leans on her personality of Clytie with the memories of Van Gogh. The Sakura 5 make up the majority of the known high servants. Note that all the Sakura 5 and BB are modeled after Mato Sakura from Fate Zero and Fate Stay Night. Here is a brief overview of how they came to be. BB, out of the desire to become the perfect AI, continually used her self-modification skill on herself. However, she came to realize that the strain that this put on her would eventually cause a system failure. To prevent this, she removed parts of herself and her ego. During their creation, BB merged them with the data of 3 divine spirits that she accessed from within the moon cell. In order of creation, they are Violet, Melt, Passion Lip / King Protea, as we don't know between them, and Kazudrop. Together, they make up the Sakura 5. Another important feature of these is that they have a special skill associated with them known as Id-S. I'll get into each of their individual Id-S as I cover each character. Violet is the eldest of this group, the only one that we are yet to see in Fate Grand Order. She is composed of Medusa, the Gorgon of Greek myth and a Fate classic; Apsara, comparable to the Greek Muses, were Hindu spirits that presided over games; and Melusine, the poor dragonic girl. She is BB's pure side, and this has been warped to becoming a monopolizer, desiring complete control over others. The goddesses picked for her fit her appearance quite well. Both Medusa and Melusine were fairly pure individuals in their legends, rather, both were tragic in a sense. Her desire to monopolize may come from Apsara, given her dominion over gaming. However, they are also relatively pure beings, connected to water and springs. The Sakura 5 are somewhat of a bastardization of the emotions they represent, so saying that Violet takes the notion of purity to its extreme is rather apt. Given that she is the eldest of the Sakura 5, she appears as the most mature of the bunch. Also, her design is strikingly similar to that of Medusa, showing which of those divine cores she best represents. Her Id-S is Crack Ice. This is an evolution from Mystic Eye, but its effect is kind of in reverse. Rather than an opponent needing to look into the Mystic Eye, all things stop in the field vision of Crack Ice. This allows Violet to still move when the eyes are active, and so long as she keeps something or someone in her field of vision, it cannot move. However, they are still conscious. Her second Id-S is called Shaking Desire. This makes her paralyzing effects more powerful at the expense of her own physical attacks. The second sister is Melt. She is composed of Artemis, the goddess of the moon and hunt in Greek myth, and a noted Chaldean yandere, Leviathan, the biblical sea monster who holds dominion over all oceans, also the mother of Terrasex, so take that as you will. Her final component is Saraswati, a Hindu river goddess who also holds dominion over music, poetry, and the wind. She is the alter ego of the End of Pleasure, born from BB's sense of service and pleasure. She is a being that does not understand love, but should she come to, she would do all in her power to protect the object of her affection. Despite this, she will never admit to being in love, and her way of expressing this is through acting in a domineering way, forever perched on a position above others. Her other primary way of expressing herself is through sadistic actions. This is likely a twisted form of being a creature of pleasure, and sadism being a way to receive constant pleasure through the pain of others. Her personality is one of complete logic and fairness, which may give her a cold outward demeanor, but in reality she's just following her programming. In her standard form, she seems to have an equal mix of the three divinities in her, but for her summer form, she channels the Leviathan, becoming more in tune with the water. Her id-s is called Melt Virus. It is an ability evolved from absorption. It effectively melts the being of her target into a liquid that she can add to herself. If she does this with a spirit body, she can obtain some of their power. Passion Lip is next. She is composed of the goddesses Parvati, the Hindu goddess of fertility and consort of Shiva, Durga, a Hindu goddess of war possessing 10 weapons of divine nature, all of which have been made into Lip's massive hands, and finally Brynhilde, the tragic Valkyrie of the Volsunga saga. She is the alter ego of the End of Hate and Love. She was BB's desire to court in emotions of love and hate. By nature, she is not violent, preferring not to fight. However, she has a natural tendency to speak without thinking, regardless of how this will affect who she is speaking to, making her a target of violence and harassment. Her other key personality trait is that she acts as a maiden in love, demanding complete affection from others. She does have a substantial character arc in the story of Fate Extra, but I'll get into that when I do a proper covering of her character. Her id-s is called Trash and Crush, derived from the monstrous strength skill likely received from Durga. This ability allows her to turn anything that she can fit into her hands in her field of vision into 1 centimeter data cubes. To understand this, look at something off in the distance that you could never possibly hold, like your neighbor's house or apartment complex. If you are able to encapsulate it in your hands from that distance, you would be able to cubify it. That is how the ability works, and it is why she is able to defeat King Protea. In the power triangle of Melt, Lip, and Protea, Melt beats Lip, Lip beats Protea, and Protea beats Melt, effectively keeping themselves in check. Her second id-s skill is called Masochistic Constitution, which is derived from a taunt ability, though I'm not exactly sure which divinity this would come from. Unlike a usual taunt skill, this bolsters Lip's defense abilities and causes whoever is targeting her to only think about her. This skill allows for Lip to strengthen herself while also taking advantage of her other abilities. Passion Lip takes Brynhilde's Noble Phantasm and alters it to target more enemies and also inflict instant death to them. She and Melt are able to perform a joint Noble Phantasm, but they take advantage of Lip's space compressing ability to shoot Melt at an enemy. This is called Virgin Laser Palladian and is an ultimate move, named after Athena's spear. Can't wait for them to actually put this or other joint Noble Phantasms into FGO. The fourth sister is King Protea. She is derived from several Earth goddesses. Titania, the Shakespearean Queen of the Fairies, synonymous with the goddess Diana. Airavata is actually a male deity, the white elephant mount of Indra. The final deity is Tiamat, the primordial goddess of Mesopotamia, and one every FGO player who has cleared Babylon is very familiar with. The going trend with these deities is that they are all supermassive and have a connection to the earth. This lends to why Protea is a giant. She is the alter ego of the thirst for love. She twists this into believing that the way to truly feel love for another is by consuming them so that they are always a part of her. Fun fact, she loves skinship, so it's perfectly okay to give her head pats. She is interesting in that she actually has a goal in mind, that being that she wishes to be a cute bride someday. However, she will always demand more love even if this occurs, and if she ever feels like she's not receiving her due amount of love, she will consume whoever her lover is. Her outward appearance is her covered in bandages, then in moss alluding to her Earth Mother spirit cores, and finally, very outwardly resembling Tiamat. Her id-s skill is Huge Growth, which is an extreme evolution of the skill Self-Modification. This skill allows for her to grow to an unlimited size. However, due to the restrictions of the Earth's gravity, she will eventually hit a growth ceiling. However, in cyberspace where the laws of nature do not apply, she can endlessly grow. As a precautionary measure against this, BB shackled her with the Infantile Regression skill, which will shrink her size down so that she never becomes an uncontrollable threat. She possesses no Noble Phantasm, but given that she is the size of a skyscraper, her basic attacks after a certain size are comparable to one. The final and youngest member of the Sakura Five, and one that has appeared in FGO but is not summonable yet, is Kazura Drop. We only know of one of the divinities used to make up her core, that being Murion. Note in an interview with Nasu, he has confirmed that the Murion that we encounter in Lost Belt 6 is not Kazura Drop, just Murion. Though her design was intentionally made to resemble Kazura Drop. Murions are fairies, kind of. They are described as the souls of those sent to purgatory, and as time goes on, they are able to grant wishes. However, each wish whittles away a little bit of them until they are about the size of an ant. After this, if they grant another wish, they will vanish. It is unknown what happens to them after this. This originates from the Cornish myth, and thus they believe that stepping on an ant could be bad luck, as you may be stepping on an ancestor of yours. As with the making of this video, we do not know what the other two divinities in Kazura Drop are. She is the alter ego of affection. So, as a result, and keeping with the trend of all the other Sakura 5, she likely has one Hindu deity inside her, and I would wager that it's Kama, given that they are both love deities. I couldn't tell you what the third might be, but if you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments. Now, you may recall that when Murion appeared in Lost Belt 6, the initial reaction of everybody was to kill her with fire. This is because she is unique in the Sakura 5. She does not hate humans, but questions why they exist in the first place, given that they are imperfect. This is likely derivative of her being BB's affection, believing that all things worthy of affection have to be perfect. So, she opts to attempt to destroy humanity, not out of malice, but out of principle, which is almost scarier. She also despises her sisters and BB for acting for themselves rather than remaining one whole perfect AI. But the biggest reason why she is despised is because she is truly a monster. In Fate Extra Foxtail, she is the main antagonist. One of her id-esses is called Insect Eater, which is an absorption skill specifically designed to consume the Sakura 5 members. During Foxtail, she used this ability to consume Melt's Lip and Protea, as well as 7/8 of BB. She gets some of their abilities as a result and grows in strength. Specifically, she can steal the other Sakura 5's id-ess skills. If left unchecked, it is likely that she would attempt to consume everything in the digital realm. But that is the Sakura 5. We are not leaving the Sakura faces just yet though. BB, for her summer form, became a high servant by absorbing the essence of the goddess Pele into herself. She did this because she apparently hit it off well with the goddess who was fading at the time. As a result of this merger, BB gained a tanned complexion and authority over the Hawaiian Islands, hence how she is able to merge them together during the Servant Fest event. Pele is noted as the immortal goddess of volcanoes in Hawaiian myth, hence her authority over the islands. The other deity that she is merged with is the Lovecraftian deity Nyarlathotep. To address comments that I've received before, yes, I'm aware that it is not actually fully confirmed if BB and Nyarla merged together. However, there is sufficient evidence to suggest that this merger happened in some capacity, such as her ability to create a time loop on the Hawaiian Islands. Also, the fact that she goes by BB Hotep as well lends credence to this. A final indicator that this is likely, the deity attached to her, is the existence outside the domain skill that she received as a passive after this merger. This skill is almost exclusively limited to the foreigner class, so BB having it would mean that she had to have merged with a foreigner, and as of right now, all Lovecraftian deities debut as foreigners. If you're wondering who the third divinity attached to her is, it's just BB. From Pele, BB gains the resistance to burning as well as the divine core of a goddess. Finally, from Pele, she receives the skill Aurea Pork Poculum. This ability increases BB's natural sadism and comes from Pele loving the demigod of pigs, Kamapua, despite being abusive towards him. From Nyarla, she receives the Faceless Moon, which allows her to create a reality marble in which she can stop time inside of. That's enough of the Sakura faces, let's get to the Ilia faces. Well, face. We have the smug lowly Shitonai. As stated prior, her primary body is that of Ilias Fiel von Einsburn, and as such, acts using Ilia's personality. However, it is stated that both Ilia and Shitonai share similar personalities as is, so really not much is different. Shitonai is the primary personality, still retaining Ilia's memories, hence why she makes her marks regarding Heracles. Shitonai herself is a dragon slayer from the Ainu tribe. She is featured with a loyal dog who was with her during her duties. For some reason, it has become a bear. It's not really explained why. She also contains the goddess Freya, the Norse goddess of fertility. This goddess is likely the one that led her to the second Lost Belt as a high servant, hence why her first encounter with Shitonai ever is her in prison. The final piece of her is the Finnish witch Lohi. This witch was a ruler that would steal the sun and moon from her people. Despite this, she apparently pitied the homunculus Ilia and decided to join with her on her journey. It is implied through gameplay that all three of these servants are able to voice opinions into Shitonai's consciousness, similar to telepathy, hence why there are many scenes of her looking off into the distance before responding to us. That final bit is not confirmed, but it would make sense in context. She also has an id-s skill called Snow Fairy, which is an evolution of the Child of Nature skill. This ability permits her to freeze anything in her surroundings. While it can be used offensively, she primarily uses it for defense. She is able to use the skill Kamui Yukar from Shitonai as well. This is a chant that can lend her the power of the other Kamui, strengthening her attack power. She also inherits a skill from Freya that is not used in FGO called Crimson Gold, which is in reference to the red gold tears that Freya would cry for the one person that she truly loved, as she was so loved by others. If this appeared in game, it would likely be something akin to a taunt. For another Wada Arco creation, we have Summer Kiara. The way that she comes into being is actually quite interesting, as it seems that she fused with all of her divinities after we kill her in the CCC event, and she sinks to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. She is composed of Kiara Lily, which is the lowly Kiara we see for a while, who was created as an attempt for Kiara to redo her childhood, the Shen, an enormous clam that causes hallucinations on the surface through its bubbles. The fossil of this beast was eaten by Kiara when she hit the sea floor, and finally, and to me the most interesting, is Yao Bikuni. It is questionable as to whether this is actually a spirit inhabiting her, as the reason why it is a part of her is that while returning to the surface, she ate an entire school of mermaids. This will be a brief summary of Yao Bikuni's legend for context. A young girl was fed the flesh of a niño, which is a fish with a human's face, or a mermaid, by her drunk father who had been warned against it. As a result, the girl became immortal. She did not appear to age, and after 800 years took her own life. The name Yao Bikuni means 800 years Buddhist priestess. This is actually rather fitting for Kiara, given that she's a bodhisattva. Yao Bikuni appears to be the core most influencing Kiara after Kiara herself, and as such, has given her self-restraint. She has a skill called Clam Palace with no elaborated description, but that we can assume comes from the Shen. She also steals something from Hokusai Saber, a bit of her divinity which has become known as Divinity Ink, which is honestly kind of funny. Finally, from Yao Bikuni, she gets the ability Mermaid's Flesh, which allows Kiara to become immortal. Kiara herself believes that she is able to consume the flesh of mermaids as they do not possess souls, and therefore she is not breaking her Buddhist vows to never cause harm, despite this clearly being broken during the CCC event, where there is an entire timeline where she kills us. Her noble phantasm is a joint effort from all of the divinities inside of her. The Shen creates a reality marble, Kiara grants them endless pleasure, then Yao Bikuni allows for Kiara to outlast them as they wither away. Truly a frightening noble phantasm. Our final high servant is our lovely clown, Ashiya Doman. We know Ashiya Doman as an alter ego from way back in Shimoso, where he was known simply as the Caster of Limbo. His main body is that of Ashiya Doman, though it is noted that he does not resemble the Onmyoji much any longer. Inside of him are two divinities and one evil spirit. The first of the divinities is its Papaloto, the Aztec goddess. She appears as a giant obsidian skeleton who watches over the paradise where victims of infant mortality reside after death, as well as the land where humans apparently originated from. Her primary form is that of a butterfly, though. The second divinity within him is Chernabog, the Slavic god of poor fate. He is the counterpart of Belobog, the god of good fortune, and both were worshipped alongside each other. The evil spirit within him is the soul of a high-end Arab minister of the left who Doman knew in life. This man's name was Fujiwara no Akimitsu. His claim to fame is requesting the assistance of Doman on casting a curse over Emperor Michinaga. This is because his own daughters were rejected by the imperial prince Atsukaira in favor of one of Michinaga's daughters. This curse caused the daughters of Michinaga to die in quick succession. It is important to note that this is in the Japanese historical record, that a man put a curse on the emperor and it actually managed to work. But for all of that, Fujiwara no Akimitsu became known as Akuryosafu, meaning the minister of the left with evil spirits. In Fate, he is known simply as Safu. From its Papaloto, his eyes become akin to obsidian and his demeanor seems to have merged with Safu and Chernabog's, becoming incredibly sadistic. It is implied that he is capable of adding even more spirits to him if he wishes to do so. He uses the abilities of all three of the servants within him to be able to not only alter servants' minds and personalities, but their saint graphs as well, making them classes that they normally would not be able to be, as we see with Shuten and Raiko in Shimosa. This skill is called Curse of Annihilation. He utilizes his own abilities enhanced by Safu and Chernabog to use a skill called Life Continuation, which makes him effectively immortal. I believe from Chernabog he also receives the ability to change day to night and summon a blood moon which can turn people into monsters, which would be a true turn of bad fate. However, that is just speculative. His noble phantasm is one yet again enhanced by his friend Safu. It is called Maelstrom Evil Spirit Left Minister. Ashiya Doman was known to use Shikigami, so with the power of the cursed left minister, he creates a storm of evil spirits. He is one of the few servants who admits to despising the master and will likely take the opportunity to kill us should it ever appear. But that is it. Those are the current high servants and what it means to be a high servant. It is a concept that's not really played around with in gameplay, aside from giving special skills to certain servants. Being a high servant has no draw on gameplay at all, but again, I bet this gets used at some point in the future. Probably in another Fate Extra event or something like that. Conceptually though, it's really fun, and I hope that we can see more servants merge into these characters appear in game. But thank you all so much for watching, I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Also, if there's a servant that you would like me to cover in the future, let me know about that as well. Subscribe to catch these videos as they go up. Like the video as it really does help out the channel. Follow my Twitch for significantly less structured content. I also have a Twitter if you're interested. All the links to those are in the video description. But for now, keep your chin up. Peace.